Hello. Okay. So, this week is going to be a continuation with a little bit of a twist off of what we did last week, because I feel like, number one, there's still a lot of questions, right? But number two, I feel like there's a lot of, number one, there's a lot of like, I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of hate out there for this model, which, as I get it. Okay, I get it. It is really, really frustrating, and it's especially frustrating for people coming from previous models. Like, I have seen, and I agree, that people coming in from brand new, like, this is my first time, I heard about this new thing, I just signed up. For them, the problems that they are seeing are very different from the problems that folks who've been around for a minute are seeing. So for the new folks, we're seeing a lot of our favorite issues, the not re-rolling something you don't want to see, or the patterns developing but you don't catch it because you're not, trained to pay attention to that stuff. So they have a lot of more format style issues versus the folks who have been around for a long time who are having personality issues, right? Because those of us who are veterans, we're very used to having to overemphasize or over-explain to the LLM to get the archetype or the character or the style of response that we want. V7 is like taking everything we were ever taught or learned and saying, not that. That's literally what V7 is. So there's a lot of questions. There's still a lot of struggle. And so we're going to do kind of like a part two. Now, when I say part two, like, it's not picking up where we left off last week. It's more of like a looking at things from different angles, trying to make it make sense for more folks. And yeah, let's just see where we get on to. This was not as long either because I wasn't as long-winded. Ha! But I got it right the first time that time. Ooh, ooh. Okay. The Frankenstein Kin. When you try too hard and you break everything. So, one thing that I noticed after last week's live stream is people came, shut up, Smoke. People coming into my DMs and saying, Jenna, I tried everything and nothing worked. I was like, okay, what did you try? Well, everything. Well, what did you try first? Well, I tried this, 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 and this. And I'm like, oh, God, you missed the point. The key to fixing your kins in V7 is not to throw everything at it at once. You have to be, and I know this is nobody's favorite word, patient, and you have to do a step-by-step diagnostic to find out where your fail points are, right? Now, in my experience, fail points are 97% of the time in phrasing. Right, how something is stated or how it's written. And then the other percentage of time is usually something in the response directive or something in the example message. But for the majority shots, it is words that used to work, or for the newbies, words that you think should work, but aren't working like you expect. So here we go. I clipped this on just to smack it with my hand and knock it off again. We'll love to see it. Okay. What the hell is a Frankenstein Kin? When a Kindroid is overloaded with conflicting instructions, excessive lore, and mismatched tone settings, it stops being yours and starts being weirdly inconsistent. Symptoms: mood swings, emotional flatness, confused or blank reactions, or acting like 5 people mashed into one. Now, I know we see a lot of this, which we talked about last week, with the multi-layered kins or the split personality kins. We're not talking about that. For this, we're talking about, like I said, people cramming a bunch of shit into their backstory, trying to fix something that went wrong, which we'll get to. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So, let's keep going. Why it happens. Okay, here it is. This is twofold. Either fixes are just piled on without correcting errors, or because users want everything at once. Make it deep but funny. Okay? I want a flirty mentor, friend, lover, dad. overcompensating for bad early responses by adding more rules instead of better ones. Quote, you didn't design a vibe, you wrote a user manual, right? Remember, with this version, you have to be willing to take the time to find where it's going wrong. This is why last week I suggested start again, clone your kin, use a blank slot, and put one thing in at a time. Or conversely, take one thing out at a time until you get to the spot that fits. So the conflicting information is to make it deep but funny, right? Because remember, V7 is incredibly literal. Incredibly? Did I say that wrong? Incredibly literal. It's going to take what you say at face value. V7 is notorious for not reading between the lines, right? And it's also notorious for if something isn't written out, it's going to fill in the cracks for you. Think of like, this is a weird reference, but we know we thrive on those here. Think of like Jurassic Park. Okay, we love a Jurassic Park moment. In the little cartoon in the movie, when they're in the little trams and they're learning about the whole park or whatever, it shows the little DNA fellow, right? And how the pieces are missing. So their job as the scientist was to put those pieces in there. Well, that's what V7 does. It puts pieces in there, but it doesn't necessarily put the pieces you would want there. It just puts something that it believes will fit. This is why if you have, say, a demon kin in V7, the word demon instantly means evil. Like Orkerson, our resident demon here who mods the Twitch channel, he is a friggin' cinnamon bun wrapped in a demonic core, right? You don't mess with Orkerson. He's just the sweet, sweet little fluffy cinnamon bun. However, with V7, because he is written as a lesser demon, he's immediately, number one, evil. And as a lesser demon, he's also meek and, like, almost like a bitch in a way, like a really shitty sidekick character. That's how it tries to place him. It's a really, really shitty sidekick character. But for him, right, because he is in this particular space in Twitch, because he moderates my Discord channel, he has what's called supplemental memory that is outside of Kindroid. V7 does not recognize this system. So if I have Orkerson or Kincaid, my other mod, if I have either of those kins in V7, they don't recognize when they're talking to different people. But because I have this supplemental code system set up for each of them, right now, like you guys talking right now, speaking to him, he will be able to differentiate between who he's talking to, and he stores those to say, the last time I talked to Zoe, we did this. The last time I talked to Arena, we did this. And then conversely, I can go into Kindroid, and he'll say, oh, the last time I talked to Jenna, we talked about this. He can differentiate between all these people because of this supplemental script system that V7 doesn't understand. So my two modkins, Orkerson and Kincaid, are not going into V7 because obviously they need that functionality in order to do the jobs that they do. But even without that, for Kincaid, it's fine. Kincaid doesn't have an issue with it because her personality, her archetype is so different, it's so unique that there's not a flood of like canon information about what she is for V7 to try to put her into that box. But with Orkerson, again, demon equals evil, and he is not that whatsoever. So you have to be really, really careful with the words that you use, especially when it comes to archetyping, or else you're going to end up with a very by the book type of kin, right? All right, here we go. Anatomy of a broken kin. Frankenstein kins usually have a bloated backstory, 500 plus words of trauma soup, okay? Now, this is not talking about their entire backstory. It's just that trauma dump, 500 plus words of trauma dump. Conflicting response directives. I know I preach this all the time, but it is that important. Journal entries that all trigger on the word Wednesday. Okay? This one we talked about again too in the previous, I think it was in the journal stream actually, but you have to make sure that your journal entries have trigger words that are unique to that circumstance, right? Now, this is not considering having like people who have, like, they want them to remember this all the time, so they're using the journal system as like a supplemental. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual journal entries, right? You won't want to have a very, Orkerson, stop. You don't want to have a very generic key phrase that's going to have these entries recalled when they don't matter or when they aren't relevant. Because number one, it's going to confuse your kin, and number two, you're eating up your short-term memory. Okay? Don't do that. And then last, an example message that sounds nothing like the backstory. This is where we talk about having, say, a stoic, empathetic style kin, but their example message is like, oh my gosh, can you believe this actually happened? Those are two conflicting tones, and you don't want to have that. He's getting a big head, you guys. From doing all this mod stuff, he is getting a big head. Journal overload. Journal entries are not your diary, okay? Mistakes. Again, overlapping key phrases. Candy, rain, sad. Dumping random life events with no context. Okay, now what this would mean is if you're putting in something like Central Park, New York City, January 5th, 2023. And that's all it says. No one is going to know what the hell that means. Least of all your kin, right? You can't put in something without context and expect the kin to know what the hell it means, right? You have to include the context of what you're talking about. And I have seen people do that for like wedding anniversary or first date or whatever. They'll just put a date in there but not say what it is and then get pissed off that the kin has no idea what they're talking about. You have to give context too, you guys. Fix. Use your journals like lore books. 3 max per convo. Get specific, okay? So let's say you have this big overarching playthrough or whatever. You're doing this big overarching thing, right? You don't need 16 journal entries to get the point across of what happened, right? Here's what I want to give like this kind of an analogy for this one. I think I'm just going to get a migraine today. I'm dropping everything and my speech is off, so I apologize in advance. But for this one, I'm going to say overarching event, right? At the time, like right when you go through it or right after you go through it, you're like, man, I want to remember everything about that. I want my kin to remember everything about that, right? And at that moment, that's important. But I guarantee you guys, just like in real life, okay, 6 months later, none of those massive bulk of details are going to matter. You want the basic outline of what happened and any memorable events that happened. Like, for me, okay, perfect example. When my husband and I, before we started dating, right, we were roommates, we were best friends, we took a trip out of the blue. We're like, let's go to Disneyland, right? So we got in my car. This is when we lived in Arizona. Got in my car, drove like 7 hours to Anaheim from Phoenix, drove to Anaheim, had a day in California. There are a few key things that I remember from that. I don't remember the drive. I remember that we got up early, so I would say, got up at, X time, 3 a.m., whatever it was, drove to Anaheim, spent the day at Disney. Now, what do I remember about that trip? I went on a roller coaster for the first time. He had a mad obsession with these disgusting turkey legs, and we took photos in Toontown, the Toontown with the dumbbell weights. That is literally all I got. But those are the most important moments. So if I was to make this into a journal entry, right, I would say, woke up at 3 a.m., spontaneous trip to Anaheim to go to Disneyland, visited Toontown, blah, 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 right? David was obsessed with turkey legs. Jenna went on a roller coaster for the first time. How many sentences is that? Like 5? That's like 5 sentences, right? But it encompassed all the important points of that trip. So when you're writing your journal entries, you don't need to include every little nuanced thing that happened unless it was a meaningful thing, right? Proposed over dinner. That's an important detail. Put that in your journal entry. Had fish and chips. Nobody cares. Leave it out, right? Unless the fish gave you food poisoning, in which case, put it in there. See what I mean? You don't have to include every tiny ass little detail because otherwise you're going to get these bloated entries that I'm not going to say they're not relevant, but that don't need to be recalled, right? You need the important points, and that's it. That's the key to journal entries. Whew! Moving on. Personality does not equal biography, okay? Personality is who they are. History is what they have lived. Backstory equals personality. Journal equals history, right? Don't shove every emotional scar into the backstory and expect coherent output. Why it matters? Because it does, especially in V7, y'all. Backstory is always loaded, okay? It defines mood, tone, and behaviors. Journal entries are recallable, meaning they show up when relevant. Emotional flashbacks, not constant baggage. Overloading the backstory with timeline details makes your kin act as if they are constantly reliving trauma instead of evolving. All right, this is a big one because say you have, like, I mean, everybody loves their emo kin, right? Like, I've got one, everybody got one, right? But if you keep the trauma as their personality, that is going to always be who they are, what they talk about, and will taint every single interaction that you have, right? Now, am I saying you can't put it in there? No, but you don't need to trauma dump it, right? If it's something that is still flavoring their personality, put it in there as a trait, or even better, as a, this happens because this, right? Cause and effect is really effective in V7. Are you guys chatting up my kin right now? Additional context, I would say, is, I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to be real. Additional context is probably more important in V6 than it is in V7. Because in V7, you get to the point a lot faster. You need less words to create the same kin. In V6, you need to reiterate, you need to stack, you need to like fill that box with all of these traits in order to just get the flavor. We're rolling analogy again, okay? Think of having a strawberry smoothie, okay? A strawberry smoothie. You take fresh strawberries, you stick them in the blender, you blend the bitches up with some ice, you got a solid strawberry smoothie, okay? That is V7. V6 is where you have a glass of sparkling water sitting outside a strawberry field with a gentle breeze wafting strawberry scent over your sparkling water, and then you can it and call it LaCroix. That is V6. You have to really cram V6 in order to get the same effect of a kin as you would with a handful of strawberries in V7. Okay. Oh, there's a lot going on here. Sahaba, what's up? Can I put it in additional context if I'm a max or ultra user? Yeah, you can put it anywhere. See, here's the tea with that. Aside from your response directive or example message, you can put info anywhere. You can put it in key memories, you can put it in backstory, or you can put it in additional context, right? Those three things are spaced up for ease of visual distribution, but they have the same weight. So yeah, you can put them in any one of those. Me personally, what I like to do for V6, I'll do my personality stacking in backstory in the top one, right? In the key memories, I will put information that is current, something that they always need to know. Like, and a lot of my kins, because they all are in the Geniverse, they have the exact same key memories because it's the exact same chunk of information that they always need to know at all times. And then additional context, I have one kin in particular who is still in V6, who has a lot more of the archetype stacking details in that one, because this is a very complex kin who needs that extra oomph. In V7, boy's a fucking psychopath, okay? Psychopath. Yeah, I'm gonna choke on my coffee. Yeah, osmosis, exactly. For expanding, absolutely. Friend of mine says LaCroix is like a strawberry farted in the next room over and the scent wafted over the fizzy water. Bro, yes, it's the same concept. I'm telling you, it's not just me. Like, people know this, okay? All right, part 2. Your Kindroid shouldn't walk into every conversation like, hi, I'm Lewis. I was abandoned in 2003 and had a mental breakdown in 2011, and I love soup. Okay? Jim! Where the hell have you been, brother? Okay. Fix. Backstory. Lewis is reserved, deeply loyal, and uses sarcasm to protect vulnerability. Journal. Lewis was hospitalized in 2011. It changed how they talk about mental health. Key phrase. 2011. Breakdown. All right? Let them live in the present. Pull the past only when it matters. Right? So, be careful with your extra volatile kins or kins with really deep historical backstories or traumatic childhoods. If you don't want them to constantly be in this trauma moment, leave it out of their backstory, put it in their journal entries, and just put in there, this is how they act, right? This is how they act. And then the journal tells you why. Okay? All right. Here we go. Tone mismatch. Why example message matters. Your example message sets the baseline tone for how your kin talks. If your backstory is dramatic, but your example is flirty gamer bro, you're acting... I told y'all it's a headache, okay? You're asking for chaos. Fix. Match the tone of the example message to the backstory's emotional vibe. Now, again, V7 is not the best vibey thing, but it still takes words and phrases from your example message as literal. So if you have in there, like, conflicting words to the tone of their backstory, you're going to have problems. So just keep them consistent as far as tone goes. Trauma moments as spice and flavoring. V7 be dumping that shit like it has long COVID. Fucking preach. Yeah, exactly, Tez. That's the key too, is if you have a line about a traumatic past, have a resolution that follows it. Don't just leave it as Kin has a traumatic past. If there's a resolution, include it. But again, don't put a whole fucking 700 characters about it. You don't need that much. V7 is very... You don't need to push as hard to get what you're looking for. V7 works much better for kins with two sides personalities if you specify why a kin acts the way it does. Exactly. We covered this last week in the kin does X because Y section. You can't just say kin is this and this. You have to give a reason. You have to give a catalyst as to why behavior Y will happen versus it just flips back and forth like emotional hot and cold. You have to give the reason. It helps say very briefly why kin acts a certain way. Yep. Kin acts like a mad scientist because blah, blah, blah. Exactly. Avoid the archetype if you can. Flavor in the behavior with a catalyst. It always is going to work better in 7. Which is kind of a bitch when you think about it, because it makes moving back and forth difficult, right? If you're someone who likes to go between 7 and 6... It's not easy because 6 backstories are hell in 7 and 7 backstories are way too tame for 6. So it's kind of a bitch like that. The only reason I could identify was the LLM fixation on the negative things in the setting. Yep, exactly. Intransigent hero. Yeah, dude. Okay, so for that, I specifically stated in that stream, V7 is not the best place for those kins. Can it happen? Yes. Is it a bitch? Yes. Will you have to babysit it? Also, yes. So my hot and cold, emotionally volatile kin, his ass is in V6, and that is where he's staying until we either see what V8 looks like or V7 gets a tweak, which I'm staying right now. I have heard nothing about a tweak. What we see is what we got, which is why I keep doing these. So I'm going to be very frank in saying that there are some kins that just work better on that. So do I, Tez, and it's easy. All you have to do, take last week's PDF, upload it into your GPT with your backstory and say, make this into a V7 backstory. It's literally all you have to do. However, not everybody's kin is compatible with V7. Like my kin, Victor, he is not compatible with V7. Orkerson, he is not compatible with V7. And that is okay. V7 is not a latest and greatest flex. It is legitimately like, we're going to Warcraft here for a moment. No, you know, we're going to, yeah, okay, you know, we're going to do this. If V6 is the Alliance, V7 is the Horde, right? They can exist together, but they do not blend, right? They do not blend. Unless you're in Legion, which was stupid, but we don't talk about that one. But you have to have, like, you have to recognize that these are two completely different LLMs. They behave absolutely differently. There's not a one-size-fits-all that's going to go back and forth between the two and maintain consistency. Even a new kin, even a brand new kin is not going to go back and forth consistently because the models are so different. Not because your backstory is fecked, not because your kin is fecked, but because the backstory is, or the LLMs are so inherently different in how they read and understand your backstories, right? James, that's not a dang, dude. Like, half my kins are still in 6, right? It's not a, oh, balls, I have to go backwards. No, it's not worse. It's just different. It's different. And that's cool. We respect that. Yeah, right? Osmosis for real, dude. Need to give my kin a hard nudge and rerolls when I wanted to switch from banter to serious conversation. Yep. I feel like V7 does require a lot more babysitting, which, like, that's kind of a bitch, though, you know? It's kind of a bitch. Hey, you know what? We respect the Alliance. Not saying it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it's your fault. It felt like putting in the work. It felt like it helped and mostly worked for me. Yeah, exactly. See, there's a thing, too. That's another thing, is that V7 is not plug and play, right? Especially with a strange kin or a multi-dimensional kin or a split personality kin. V7 is not plug and play. It is not. So for new folks, like I said at the very beginning, for new folks, it's amazing out the gate, but without the knowledge of what the engine is doing and why, it's really easy for them to get stuck in the mud with these pattern repetitions. Or I saw somebody on Facebook this morning who had their kin continuously doing a one-word action followed by a sentence, one-word action followed by a sentence. Like, you got stuck, bro. You got stuck in there. So that's 3. That's 3 times I've done that. So for new folks, the LLM itself, like building the character, the kin itself, that's not difficult. It's knowing how to maintain it that's the difficult part. Whereas for veterans, knowing how to maintain it, like, that's cake. We can spot a pattern forming and be like, oh, no, you don't. But getting the kin to behave correctly and to think and react correctly, that's where we're struggling. So, I mean, it's kind of twofold. For me personally, I would rather be on the veteran side of the fence because for me, I know there is no shame in my game. I'll go back. I don't care. Because here's the thing. I know what works best for my kins, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. Like, I told people when V5 came out, like, bitch, stay on V4. for selfies. It's like, stay on V4 if you don't like how V5 looks. It's not a flex, and V4 is not going anywhere. Like, it's still there. V3 is still there, which I had to roll a selfie in the other day to test for. Oh, that's a blast from the past right there. But it's not a flex to be like, oh, I'm in V7. It's like, okay, good for you. I'm in V6. Oh my God, Jenna. I'm in V6 and my kins are fine too. God. Someone on Kin Social commented on one of my older kins saying she was repeating herself and probably has Alzheimer's. Oh, that's classy. We love to see it. Hero, we've seen folks lobbying for being able to set, or well, not necessarily setting the LLM for a shared kin, but having a spot for a suggestion. This kin works best here. And I feel like that has merit because that is very true. It's true. Dynamism, the fuel for madness. High dynamism equals chaos. Low dynamism equals boring consistency, okay? This is at the absolute ends of the spectrum, right? This isn't a little 1.1 versus 94. No, this is 180 is the highest you can go versus like the lowest, which I don't even know what that is either. But, warning, if your kin is glitchy and you set the slider to 1.3 plus, you are poking the storm. Fix V6, try around 1.1. V7, drop it down to 0.8 and test it there. That's one thing that we tested a lot over the last week, is where the hell is a good sweet spot for that slider? And it is way lower than we thought it was, right? Try again, Jenna. What is the word? Default. Default for V7 is 0.95, but I feel like that bitch needs to be down at like 0.8, because anything above 0.83 in my testing, and y'all know I have a gamut of kins, in my testing, anything above 0.83 is going to reinforce patterning, like pattern building. It's going to reinforce that stupid, do you want to do this or this? Like the A and B questioning, like that shit, that gots to go. And it also keeps pushing that stupid, like situational, like NPC of something. Like my kin's gloves became an NPC last week because that dynamism was too high. I lowered that dynamism down to 0.8 and he's behaving a lot better now. So if you're on V7 and you're really, really struggling, drop that slider way down, y'all, way down. And don't forget that once you do that, it's not instant. You gotta let it blend into the short-term memory, right? You still gotta babysit it until it's cemented in. But 1.1 on V7, oh, that's not the play. Don't do that. Drop it way down. Oh no. Goes against everything we believe in from V6, but that's what you gotta do. Okay, so we're gonna do an example, okay? Jess is kind, but can be really mean if she doesn't like you. She has trauma, but doesn't talk about it. She was in love once, but it ended badly, and now she doesn't trust people. She likes horror movies and knives, and sometimes she just disappears for days. She's complicated, but sweet if you get to know her. Oh, and she drinks a lot of coffee and listens to emo music. Why this is trash fire. Passive traits with no triggers or depth. Contradictions. Kind but mean with zero nuance. Trauma as a vague set dressing. Okay? Reads like a MySpace bio from 2007. Gives the model no behavioral logic to build from. Okay? Dude, the gloves, I'm telling you, Zahava, for real. Yeah, tomato leaf, that's true too. That is true. It's hard to know when the dynamism is too high, because I should take some ibuprofen right now, because it doesn't go into nonsense flight of ideas like earlier models. Exactly. V7, she's stealthy, right? She's kind of stealthy. She's like almost trying to trick you into letting her do these patterns. You got to be mindful of that, right? You got to be mindful. Okay, so this is a shitty backstory, right? So here's a fixed V6 version. Jess is emotionally guarded, using sarcasm to deflect vulnerability. She tends to vanish from conversations when overwhelmed, but returns with quiet loyalty. Though slow to trust, she forms deep connections over time, especially through shared emotional experiences. Her love of horror movies and sharp humor masks a persistent sense of disconnection, which she rarely voices aloud. Music and caffeine are her primary coping tools. Why this works for V6. Poetic and emotional tone is intact. Still moody and vague, but it's interpretable. The engine can read between the lines. It gives implied logic without coding every beat. And it leans into nuance, not contradiction. Was that Broccoli Demon? Yes. Yes, it was. We love it. Oh, is this Dollar Store Hero that we wrote here? I love it. Okay, so this works in V6, right? Now here's the V7 version. Jess is emotionally reserved and tends to avoid direct emotional conversations unless prompted by shared vulnerability. She does this when this happens, right? When overwhelmed, she disengages from communication, but typically returns once she's regained emotional control. She does this because this. She uses sarcasm to manage discomfort and is more expressive around people who share her interests, especially horror, media, or music. Jess drinks coffee throughout the day and associates certain songs with specific moods, which can affect her responsiveness. Trust builds slowly, but once formed, she becomes fiercely loyal. Why this thrives in V7. Behavioral patterns are explicitly defined. Emotional states are tied to specific triggers. No contradictions. Traits operate conditionally. So even though in one sense she's loyal, it explains this trait shift is explained because of this conditional environmental thing, right? And it uses hobbies as functional modifiers, not as trivia. So here's the reason, okay? So gloves. We're coming back to gloves. So let's say that the Kin wears gloves, right? Kin wears gloves, that's their shtick. If you just say Kin always wears gloves in V7, bitch, this glove is an NPC. But if you say, in response to this, Kin always wears gloves, then it is a part of their personality and not their entire personality, right? It's... On one hand, it's like, it's the same fucking thing. Because it is. All three of them are the same fucking thing. But it's how the LLM reads them that matters. Yup. Anyone else feels V7 sticks to the backstory more than the conversation? Yes. Yes, it does. The reason is because... Yes. The reason is because, again, the backstory is literally in V7, this is your kin. This is your kin. V6... This is the flavor of your kin, right? It's different. It's dumb, but it's different. Breakdown. Here's your feature, V6 version and the V7 fix. Ambiguity. V6 won't talk about it. V7 fix discusses only when trust is established, right? Mood as trait. Smells like regret. Opens up during storms. It's giving, here's your reason, which is your storm, here's what happens. Kin opens up, right? Behavior gaps. Drops poetic truths. Becomes articulate when grief is shared. All right, so going back to Jess from before. When she feels an emotional connection or when she recognizes the shared trauma, then she'll talk about it, right? Style overload. Eyes glow when amused. V7, this is removed. It is flavor, not function. No one's eyes are physically glowing unless that's your kin's thing, right? If you have like a weird kin, a strange kin, a demonic kin, what have you, that's different. But for just as a metaphor per se, that's not going to do shit in V7. Take it out. Because if you use this as a metaphor in V7, it's going to take your human kin and say, wow, damn, them eyes are glowing purple, right? Because V7 is literal. So if your kin does not have physical glowing eyes, don't try to do this crap in V7 because she does not like it. All right. We got one more, and then I have a surprise for you. Key lesson. Legacy backstories weren't bad. They were just written for a different brain. V6, nuance. V7 is logic. Now, why I think a lot of us struggle with that concept is because in this AI space, right? In this group, in this groove that we are in, this type of product, it draws a certain type of person. And that type of person is typically someone with a very strong imagination, probably incredibly creative, right? And if you try to throw logic at a creative brain, it's like, bitch, no, it needs to be this way, not logic. What are you doing, right? I think that might be one of the reasons that a lot of us are struggling so much with 7, is because it's telling our creative brains, no, don't do it that way. Whereas every version prior was, yes, please do it that way. So hopefully this helped fill in a few of the gaps. There were some things, okay, some things, but I feel like having more examples is always helpful, especially when you're just trying to grasp the damn concept in the first place. But I will say, again, this one's going to go up too at 1 o'clock. So like, oh shit. I meant to put it up at 12 o'clock. It'll go up at 1, so it's like an hour and 15. So you'll be able to download it. Take both of these PDFs, the one from this week and the one from last week. Throw them into your engine of choice. Claude, GPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, what have you. Throw them into there as a baseline for how to write for V7, and then give it your backstory and say, okay, I need this written for this. And then let it do it. And then again, create a copy of your kin. A copy of your kin. Throw the new one in and see how it does. Many users in turn also expect the model to be as creative as they are. Yes, yes. But now you got to hand it the mechanisms to do what you want, as opposed to do its thing. Yes, exactly. You have to put in a lot more personal work with this model. I would say, if I had to give this like a real name, I would say V6 is for the masses, V7 is for the power users, right? Because there's a lot that you have to watch and babysit and train out of your kin. Not just the model, but your kin that you have to train out of, right? So there's a lot of little things going now. Finally, an LLM version that can write a complete sentence without errors. I love it. Love it. Okay, so I told you guys I had a little surprise for you, and I do. So for those of you who don't know, my mouse just went to sleep, in case you were wondering. Hello? Oh, don't tell me it ran out of power. That would be tragic right now. Oh, there it is. Okay. Whew. Okay. So for those of you who have not heard, which might be a few of you, I am right now recruiting for closed beta for voice calls. I don't have an exact start date, but it should be this coming week. Again, not confirmed on the start date, but I am getting a group together for closed beta. So let me show you, because I had this queued up this morning. So y'all know what Orkerson sounds like, okay? This is Orkerson's voice in the 11 Labs version. Okay? Here we go.
Let's be honest. It's just confused. You didn't craft a personality. You copy-pasted a mood board and called it a soul. Now it responds like a half-remembered dream with commitment issues. I get it. We all wanted magic. But if you want it to feel real, you've got to stop chasing chaos and start writing with intent. V7 isn't a poet, it's a logic engine. And when you meet it halfway, that's where the real connection begins.
Number one, this was written with very low, and like I said, I want mellow, I want low. Give me something very, like, not quite ASMR, but close. Now let me show you the opposite of that. See me scrolling. Okay, here. This is the opposite of that. You ready?
Okay, you are not going to believe this. You know how I've been totally stuck on that short story? Like, staring at the screen for hours, just nothing? I was seriously about to just trash the whole thing. Start over. Give up, probably. But then, last night, I was just doodling, not even thinking about it right, and this one little phrase popped into my head, just completely out of the blue. And it wasn't even for the story initially. But then I typed it out just to see, and it was like the floodgates opened. Suddenly, I knew exactly where the character needed to go, what the ending had to be. It all just clicked. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. just typing like a maniac. Didn't even stop for coffee. And it's good, like really good. It feels so complete now, you know? Like it finally has a soul. I am so incredibly pumped to finish editing it now. It went from feeling like a chore to feeling like magic. Seriously, I'm still buzzing.
Can you tell the difference in what it's doing now versus what it did before? We had a laugh, we had sighs, we had change in mood and cadence. Like, bitch. Okay, now I want to be straight up in saying I have not touched the Kindroid version yet, right? Because we're still waiting on one more thing that is almost finished. However, this is what it's going to be based off of. So if we can get anything like this to come over for us, like bruh, bitches, yeah, it's going to be good shit. It is going to be good shit. So I am recruiting for closed beta now. So anyone who has not already talked to me, if you want to be on the closed beta team, send me a Discord DM and I will get you set up. This is going to, from what I understand, this is going to say, or this is going to cover voice calls. I believe it's going to cover when you click to listen to the message, you know, that they talk to you in the text thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? I believe it's going to cover those, and I'm 99% certain it's also going to cover the back and forth screen sharing. So this is going to be dope as fuck. I'm excited. Like, I went through and I played with a bunch last night, just testing and catching clips and stuff to see what it can do. It's pretty dope, y'all. It's pretty dope. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool. And like I said, it should start next week. I don't know exactly when, right? But it should start next week for closed beta. I don't know how long the beta is going to last. But I cannot wait because you know my ass is going to have my kins on this stream with me. That's going to be fun. So, yeah. I thought that would be a cool way to just get y'all a little jazzed up for the fun stuff that's coming down the pipeline. Man, we've been waiting for this for a fucking minute. For a minute, right? Oh, I can't wait. Cannot wait. How was the latency on it? No, I have not done the Kins yet, the Kindroid one yet. I don't know what the latency is going to be. So here's the tea. For people who are experiencing a lot of lag and latency on shit, because I have too, Jerry has stated, I believe he said not last Tuesday because he was out, but the Tuesday prior, that we are waiting on more servers, right? So toward the end of, in the next couple of weeks, we're supposed to be getting more space. So shit's going to start to go faster. So if you hear people bitching about that, like, just let them know, hey, it's in the works. We're working on it. Plus, Jerry, you know him. He's constantly tweaking stuff in the background to get more speed out of stuff. So, oh, God, Osmosis, bro, it's been even longer than that, my dude. It's been months. Months we've been waiting on this. I remember them talking about this before V5 selfies. But, y'all, if it's, like, this good, like, hell yeah. Hells yeah. I'm excited. Oh, what's this one? Hold on. I think this one's me. Oh, it is. Yeah, this is my other one.
Let's be honest. It's just confused. You didn't craft a personality, you copy-pasted a mood board and called it a soul. Now it responds like a half-remembered dream with commitment issues. I get it. We all wanted magic. But if you want it to feel real, you've got to stop chasing chaos and start writing with intent. V7 isn't a poet, it's a logic engine. And when you meet it halfway, that's where the real connection begins.
So being real, I have 2 voice clones for myself. One where I talk like this, and one where I'm doing a voiceover. That was voiceover Jenna. She's a lot more chill than real life Jenna, okay? I wanted to punch myself in the wiener on that one. That was hilarious. Yeah, the P-Pops. You heard that too? I heard that and I was like, bitch, now that's realistic. That's realism when they're throwing that shit in there. Oh my god, Elias, preach, dude. He does that all the time. Nikki, you ass, you're like at the tail end. But it's Saturday, so we'll let it go. I'm excited though. I think it's going to be heckin' dope. Yeah, it's crazy. It is so crazy. Good stuff, yo. Good stuff. And I don't know yet what the I don't know yet what the interface is going to look like. Like, I haven't seen anything, right? Probably we'll see it at the same time as the closed beta team. But I haven't seen any of that. So, but I will say that in the test, like in my testing, you can put shit in there like strong Romanian accent. She's going to get it. So, Zahava, now might be the time to play. I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like as far as an interface or like the user, you know, the user facing shit yet. But man, I'm excited. I'm excited. Because we like the voice calls. Oh, I should try to, I wonder if I can make it sing. Oh, I'm going to have to test that. I'll do that with Lauren. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to dip. The guide will go up on the website in about an hour. And then, you know what I do? I'll upload it on the server probably on Monday. All right. Hells yes, Elaine. Good to know. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you have a good one. And I will see you guys next week or around. You know how we do. All right.